8 minutes or 7?
10. So they won't even see a time signal till they're halfway done. All right.
Would you like live in dirty atmosphere or do you prefer breathe fresh air? You decided. Recycling is the act of collecting, recreating, and separating the used item into new products. Not everyone recycles for various reasons. Either they are too lazy or they just don't care about the environment. According to the recycling statistic, each person produced 4.6 pounds of trash per day in the United States. And the United States recycle about 32% of each day. Recycling should be enforced as a law in order to keep our environment healthy. People don't care if they litter due to the fact that they will eventually go older and die. These kind of people just care less about the future. Recycling is one of the best way that people can do in everyday life. People are unaware of the damage that has been done to the environment. Today, I'm gonna talk about how landfills are dangerous to our health, how recycling saves money, and how the ozone layer is deteriorating. To begin with, landfills are treacherous both to our health and environment. Recycling can reduce the chance of trash being thrown into the landfills and lessen both air and water pollution. Not all the waste that's thrown away is recyclable, but a small amount of trash can be recyclable for everyone. Not all the landfills are composed of tons of trash mixed together, making toxic acid that is lead to humans' health risk. The people who live landfills get more risk for that. The new study examined the occurrence of 7 kinds of cancer among men and women living near landfills, where naturally occurring landfill gas is thought to be escaping into the surrounding air. So living near landfills are also affect children's health, especially their health. The most commonly reported effect of living near landfill is low birth weight and small size among children. As said before, landfills are very hazardous to our environment. Landfills pollute the environment by contaminating the groundwater, its soil, and producing methane. Methane is the greenhouse gas that is stronger than carbon dioxide. This gas can cause of global warming. In order to keep our environment clean, we have to reduce landfills and recycle as much as possible. And actually, recycling saves money than generating landfills. Selling recyclable items balance the cost of accumulating and processing items. For example, aluminum costs twice as much the recycled aluminum because it needs more energy to cut the aluminum from its raw form. Recycling does not limit to your house, neighbor, or town. Recycle is nationwide. From TexasRecycling.org, Texas Instruments recycles 81% of non-hazardous solid waste in its U.S. nation, saving at least 10% of manufacturing resources each quarter, or minimum $60 million. Nowadays, people have been know that how much paper is being thrown away. From solidwaste.com, around 45% of paper Americans use each year is recovered for recycling. This is made into a wide variety of goods such as new newspaper, office paper, paper towel, and so on. A lot of things can be done with used material, such as use your clothes to make curtain or reuse it for wash your car. Apple core and orange peels can be used as fertilizer for garden in order to give them some natural nutrient. There are many ways to save money. You just got to find the time and be creative to come up with different ideas. Pursuing this future, the ozone layer is being destroyed as due to the great amount of trash in the environment. The ozone layer is the layer of natural ozone gas that is settled 9 to 18 miles exceeding Earth and protect the environment from the ultraviolet rays that are produced from the sun. Excess amount of ultraviolet rays can cause skin cancer, eye damage, extreme sunburn. Chlorofluorocarbon is found in aerosol spray. They are non-toxic, non-flammable. They are commonly used as coolant in refrigeration and air conditioner, mostly for electronic circuit board, and it also used for fire extinguisher. This type of chemical also damages the ozone layer, strongly release bromine and chlorine. The ozone layer absorbs about 97 to 99% of ultraviolet rays. So think about it, without the ozone layer, the human race could go extinct. The ozone layer is destroyed as a result of the release of pollution containing the chemical bromine and chlorine. Once these chemicals destroy part of the ozone layer, the ultraviolet rays damage the reproductive cycle and single-cell organisms such as algae. If recycling is not enforced, the gas that are released from the trash will go into the ozone layer, which can reduce it. Keep in mind that the more of creating landfills and people refusing to recycle, it will lead to ozone depletion. In conclusion, up to this point, everyone should be for recycling, but some of people are not. One reason why someone might still be against the recycling is because mandatory recycling wastes the resources, but which is not right. Recycling is not wasting resources, it protects our environment. Resources will be wasted if recycling is not enforced in the time. Recycling is one of the best ways to save resources to our everyday life. Everyone enjoys to surround with a clean atmosphere and not to worry about to wear the mask. Recycling should be mandatory for everyone in order to conserve the environment. People have been aware of all the damage that's been done to the environment as a result of division of recycling. Landfills are being hazardous to our environment, most importantly to ozone depletion. If people want to Earth last for a couple of 100 years, think about it. Let us make a difference. Reuse, reduce, and recycle. Remember that one person can make a huge difference. Thank you.
All right, well, the rhetorical survey at the beginning was okay, but I think you could use something a little bit more compelling. You identify the subject very clearly. You've got a clear statement of what your purpose is. I think you've got a transition that needs to be a little bit clearer, but you do preview what the supporting points of the speech are, and that's fine. You mentioned landfills as a threat, and you assert that it's risky. There's not really any statistical data on the gases that get released. That's a little bit vague. There's some information about some apparent cancer risk. I think that's what you were talking about, but it was not very clear. and the groundwater contamination is all asserted. So I think you've got information someplace that suggests that these things are all potential problems, but I didn't hear source citations on those points, and there wasn't anything that seemed like it was particularly strong. It's mostly assumptions about those kinds of risks. So I think that those could be documented a little bit more thoroughly. There's an argument about an economic benefit that's kind of stuck in the middle. That's maybe the wrong place for it. It might be better to put it at the end when you were talking about resistance to recycling, so that you could show that there is an economic incentive to doing this, and that might overcome some people's resistance to the idea. You also have a discussion of individual actions that you could do to reduce the input in landfill. So it's sort of like you've got your solution to the landfill crisis in a separate section from the solutions to other issues. The ozone layer subject is explained relatively simply. That's okay. CFCs, I am concerned about whether or not there are already restrictions on these. I believe that there are, and there's not really much context provided here on that issue. And it wasn't clear how recycling addresses the issue of chlorofluorocarbons in the atmosphere, except that this stuff apparently ends up in landfills and becomes part of the gases that's released, which I think is, largely asserted. How do the CFCs, for instance, in air conditioning end up in landfills? You need a more explanation about that. And like I said, I think there's probably some regulation on this, that maybe there are insufficient regulations, but I think you don't give us enough context on it to help. The gases from trash ultimately are supposedly the risk to the ozone layer, and again, I think you need some direct data on that. The presentation, I think your voices, you project reasonably well. I think you could have a little bit more energy. I know it's a little tough at 7:15 in the morning to get too up. Even though you have notes in your hands, you do a good job talking to the audience. Your eye contacts, I wouldn't say it's widely distributed because we don't have a wide audience here, but it was reasonably well distributed between the 6 people that are sitting in the room. I appreciated that. Your gestures are a little limited because of the notes in your hand, but I thought the presentation was relatively solid. All right, thank you.